Hi, I'm Chris Lewis, firefighter for the Lakeville Fire Department, and welcome to another edition of On Call. The goal of this program is to educate and inform the citizens of Lakeville about how their all-volunteer fire department trains in response to emergencies. Let's take a look at what's coming up on this edition of On Call. Station 2 Captain Tabor Aiken highlights vehicle stabilization at a recent training session, and he tells us about some of the challenges we encounter as a fire department. Next, Fire Chief Mike Meyer shows us some of the events that occurred at this year's Fire Open House. In Ask the Firefighter, Mike Jones explains what happens to our old fire trucks when they get replaced. I will get you caught up on the latest happenings around the fire department. And Spot the Fire Dog gets a visit from Fire Inspector Jay O'Connell and learns about things to do around the house to stay fire safe this winter. Vehicle accidents occur almost every day in our community. Most are minor fender benders, but occasionally we do have accidents that make it challenging for firefighters. When this happens, we as a fire department work to stabilize the vehicle so first responders can safely work on assisting the occupants. Station 2 Fire Captain Tabor Aiken explains a recent training exercise for these types of incidents.
Both stations essentially have two setups. One is a vehicle on its side, which is a pretty common occurrence, and then the other one is actually a stacked vehicle. So we've got one car that's got four wheels or on the ground, and then the other car is sitting on top of that. So an accident could be that one vehicle was stopped, a smaller vehicle came up from behind and then went underneath the other vehicle. So now you potentially have victims trapped in the vehicle that is underneath while the other car is sitting on top.
Okay, so which one of these would be a more common occurrence that we would see on scene?
Yeah, I'd say that probably the vehicle on its side is a little more common, something that we might see a little more often. Potentially a car rolls simply onto its side, or a car rolls over and then ends up on its side.
Okay, so could you tell us about some of the different apparatus that we're using with these?
Sure. Okay. The piece that's probably the primary is we're using a set of struts, and the primary component that we're training on tonight is stabilization.
Okay.
So in both of those scenarios, the element, stabilization element is the same. We need to stabilize that vehicle. We need to stop it from moving before we can do any work, specifically extrication. So if someone's trapped in the vehicle, then we need to make sure that that vehicle doesn't move anymore before we try getting that person out. Typically, that extrication process is going to involve more work on the car, movement, and so we want to make sure it's as stable as possible before we're putting firefighters on the vehicle, in the vehicle, possibly paramedics in the vehicle. We want to make sure we've limited that movement as much as we can control.
So we've talked about the vehicle on the side. What about the vehicles that are stacked on top of each other? Is that something we see very often, or no?
Not something we see very often, no.
Okay.
I can't remember ever seeing it myself on an actual scene, but it's the potential for it.
Okay.
And then really what setting something like that up in a training environment forces us to do is apply the skills and think about how we might apply the tools that we have, the skills that we have to, say, the vehicle on its side, and then the tools that we have, the skills to the vehicle that's stacked.
All right, Tabor, so you're right that we see different scenarios and we have to get creative, things like that. What other kind of accidents or crashes do we see that are a little more common?
I'd say common is probably just a standard sort of two-vehicle accident, possibly a head-on. Sort of your traditional fender bender, one car stopped, another car rear ends that car. Most accidents that we respond to are minimal extrication, require some patient care. Frequently we'll do things like fluid cleanup or clean up debris from the vehicles, try to clean the roadway up, move vehicles out as quickly as possible so that the roadway is back open for traffic, and then assist police, possibly with traffic direction, assist the tow truck company with a little bit of scene cleanup. Again, try to get that roadway clean and open back up as quickly and as reasonably as possible.
Okay, so you talked about stabilization and how that's there to protect the victim, right? Keep the car from moving, things like that. What other kind of hazards do we have to worry about on a car scene?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the big advantages that we have that's protecting us is our gear. We take it for granted because we use it all the time, but it's got a real specific purpose. So it's protecting us from things like broken glass, debris, whether it's metal or other pieces that are going to come off a car. Fluids are a big part, that all the stuff that's in the car when it gets in an accident tends to start leaking, so we might have antifreeze, gas, could have other other fluids that are coming out. A big one on the roadway that we wear the vests and try to do some high visibility clothing for, as well as the lights, is traffic. You know, that we need to protect ourselves from everybody else that's still trying to use that roadway, may not see us, may be distracted by the accident, and so trying to maintain a safe place for everyone to work, and then trying to address the accident scene without having any further injuries take place.
Okay, and I know that we also train on where we park and how that is a factor in a scene like this.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is you try to use our vehicles as well as other vehicles, specifically police vehicles, to block the scene so that the people that are doing the work are protected. So if someone were to come up on that scene and not be paying attention, not see the fire truck or other emergency vehicle and start to go into the scene, that they would be stopped, and we would be protected by, say, a fire truck. They would be stopped by that fire truck. So it certainly could create another accident, which we definitely don't want, but it does protect the people working on the accident scene. So you're right, we will use some apparatus. So you might see, specifically a freeway is a great example, where you might see an engine, a fire engine, parked back a ways from the scene, and it doesn't look like it's doing anything. And in fact, it's doing an important job, which is protecting that scene, forcing everyone to move over a lane and stay away from that accident.
Okay. All right, Tabor, so we're working on, your standard cars or anything like that. Tell me about hybrid vehicles and how we have to work differently with a car like that.
Yeah, I'd say the primary piece with a hybrid, that's the big difference, is the power source, and trying to be really careful with that. And we do a lot of ongoing training because the technology is constantly evolving and trying to stay on top of it.
Right.
I'll be honest and say it's challenging. I've worked a couple of hybrid cars that have been involved in accidents, and it's a learning experience as you go. Try to be very careful, know what to look for, but also just taking our time and being very deliberate about it, and then accessing resources, as silly as it may seem, an owner's manual. There's a lot of information online that we can access and have access to, and then as well as if they're able to assist the owner of the vehicle, may know the vehicle better, so if they're able to give some information, they may be helpful as well. But essentially, it's similar in the approach that we take with any car accident, just that we move very deliberately. We do our best to constantly assess what we're working with, collect as much information as we can before making decisions, and then make those decisions, reevaluate as we go. Is that the right decision? If not, change it, and constantly keep using that information. So it's a pretty standard protocol that we use, and hybrids fit in there. They just have got a little bit of a different technology system under the hood.
Tabor, this has been very useful information. Thanks for being here tonight.
You're welcome, Chris. Thanks for having me.
When we come back, Fire Chief Mike Meyer highlights some of the events at our annual Fire Open House.
Welcome to another edition of Chief's Corner. I'm Fire Chief Mike Meyer, and tonight we're highlighting the open house. The reason that we do the open house is this week is Fire Prevention Week for the fire service for the nation, and we like to highlight and just talk about fire safety. So not only do we have our open house, but we also visit all the schools, talk to kindergarten through 4th grade about fire safety and the things that they need to be aware of as far as being in the kitchen, being safe around the kitchen. Candles in a home, those are kind of the number 1, number 2 cook fires that occur in a residence. Some of the events that are happening here this evening are we're going to do a vehicle extrication demonstration for everybody. Then we'll later do a vehicle fire. We also have North Air Care coming in. The helicopters are going to be here. So people that come to the open house can see that and see what the helicopters about, what they do and how they help us. We also have quite a few different displays inside the bay. Dakota Electric is one of them that demonstrates electricity and safeties with that. The police department is here for not only a display of their vehicle and talk to officers, but we also have their child safety seats. So there's going to be Lori Clemmer here to talk about installing child safety seats and the concerns about making sure they're properly installed. And our open house is also a chance for the public to come and see what we have as far as the fire department and who we are, as far as paid on call firefighters that serve them when there's an incident or emergency in their, whether it's their home or in the city. Our open house is an annual event that occurs on Tuesday of a fire prevention week. So if you missed tonight, we'll be back here at Station 4 next year for you to come and visit us and learn about fire safety.
Thanks, Chief. Let's take a look at some of the things that have been happening around the fire department.
This summer, LFD responded to a large fire at the Friendly Host Motel near I-35 and County Road 50, just south of Mills Fleet Farm. Because of the size of the fire, we were assisted by firefighters from Burnsville and Apple Valley. The fire started in a unit on an upper floor, but it quickly spread to much of the building, and there is damage to the entire structure. All the guests did escape from the building and were relocated by bus during the incident. The investigation is complete and the cause of the fire has been ruled as undetermined. Mills Fleet Farm is the property owner and has not announced the future for the site, but the building has been condemned by officials and will eventually be demolished. Other than the fire at the Friendly Host, most of the other calls for service have been relatively minor. And then we had some calls you just have to scratch your head and ask what were they thinking. Like this guy who fled police and took on a tree with his van. Tree 1, van 0. Or this house where someone left cigarette butts on the deck and caught the siding on fire. And then we had a kid who rode his mini bike onto the road and right to the side of a passing vehicle. Don't worry, he'll be okay. And finally this guy who found himself rubbing up against the guardrail wires on I-35. He ended up in the back of a state patrol squad in a set of shiny handcuffs. LFD recently implemented the use of duty crew during the daytime hours. This two-person crew will respond to calls like lift assists, a hit gas line, or other calls that don't usually require a full crew. The goal of this is to have quicker response times, lessen the number of times an entire station is paged out, and take care of other miscellaneous tasks around the fire department. It's been a few weeks now that the double-lane roundabout has been open. While there has been some minor accidents, no major incidents have occurred as drivers get used to this new traffic control device. Here's a few tips to properly using the roundabout. Know which direction you will be exiting before entering and then pick your lane. Yield to all vehicles in the roundabout. Once you enter, stay in your lane. And don't forget to look for pedestrians before and after driving in the roundabout. The roundabout is very effective moving traffic if everyone follows these simple rules, has their full attention on driving, and keeps their speed down. The Lakeville Public Safety Foundation is a nonprofit organization that promotes public safety by enhancing the capabilities of the police department and the fire department. They provide financial assistance for community-based public safety programs, events, processes, and non-essential operational tools through donations from citizens and corporations. The foundation held their first annual Police and Firemen's Ball back in September to say thank you to the individuals who keep our communities safe every day. Walter Brands out of Station 2 was recognized as Firefighter of the Year from the foundation. Special thanks to all the sponsors who made this event possible. And that's just some of the things happening around the fire department.
Hi, I'm Mike Jones, firefighter at Station 3. And today's Ask the Firefighter question comes to us from Megan. And she asks, what happens to old fire trucks? Thanks for your question, Megan. The life of a fire truck is typically about 25 to 30 years. And there are a few options for us to get rid of it. Now you may ask yourself, who would buy an old fire truck? Sometimes the buyer is a very small department in rural America, and they simply don't have the money to purchase a new truck. Sometimes trucks get used for non-firefighting purposes, and even though it is old, it might be good enough for their needs. And some might purchase an old truck and then sell it for parts. Now when it comes time for us to move a truck, we have several options. One option is to sell it at an auction. This allows the vehicle to be sold quickly, but we might not get top dollar. Another option is to place it for sale in a publication that sells used fire trucks. The advantage of this is possibly getting more for the truck, but it does take more time and effort to get it sold. When it is time to retire a truck, usually we have to replace it with a new one. Sometimes the manufacturer will take an old truck on trade. This is also an easy way for us to move an old vehicle. Thank you for your question, Megan. If you have a question for Ask the Firefighter, use the contact information on the screen.
Go. They're kicking it down. There it is. It goes in, and it's a goal! Oh, it's a goal! I got so excited I fell on the floor. Hey, everyone! It is I, Spot the fire dog, because I like to spot and stomp out the fire. Hey, this month I'm hanging out watching my favorite sports channel while I wait for my good buddy Jay O'Connell to come over to my house and help me prepare my home for the winter weather season so we stay safe. So, hey, I think that's Jay. I heard the doorbell and went, goal! Oh, no goal, false alarm. Jay!
Spot?
Hey, Jay, over here!
Spot, are you in here?
Yeah, hey, I'm glad I gave you my key to my house so you could just let yourself in. How are you?
Well, of course. I'd always just come in at your house.
Absolutely. Hey, you want to come in and watch the soccer game with me?
Well, I thought we were going to go look at some winter safety tips.
Oh, that's all right. I suppose, where do we have to start first?
Well, let's start down in the furnace room.
Oh, yeah, well, we can go right down there.
Yeah, right
you
down
first.
here.
Here we go. Hey, Jay, we're here at the furnace. What do I need to know?
All right. Well, with your furnace, you actually have to do some annual maintenance on it.
Yeah.
What you want to do is actually call your furnace company, okay, a contractor, and have them come out. They'll check for carbon monoxide. They'll check for rust in your furnace.
Yeah.
So that's stuff that they can do, and that's an annual check that you need. But something that you can do is checking the airflow, okay? So we've got filters that you need to clean because this is grabbing air from the outside.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to clean these, okay?
Those are filthy.
Yep, and just clean those up. That'll get the air flowing through here.
Okay.
This is one that you can clean yourself. Most people have like a filter that you can get from the hardware store that
made
you
out
just
of paper.
replace.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what do you do
so
with
you
these?
can replace those.
I think you can put those in like tubs and even dishwashers. Hey, Jay, that was great advice. Where are we going to check out next?
Well, let's go up and check the dryer.
Let's do it. So, Jay, we got these things that are on the side of my house. What do I need to know now that we're going into the winter weather season?
This one here is your dryer vent.
Yeah?
So normally what you want to do is make sure that this is cleared out. When the dryer's flowing...
Oh! Thought maybe something would bite you.
Nope, you got some lint in there.
Look at that, look, you're right.
So you need to have that cleaned out once a year.
Okay.
All right? So that the lint doesn't catch on fire from your dryer. Okay?
Hey, you mean that the stuff can stay in there and go boom because of the fire?
Not go boom, but it can
Because
catch
of the
on fire.
temperatures.
Yep, it'll
Yeah.
heat up and then it'll start that lint on fire. We
Gotcha.
get quite a few dryer fires.
Oh, well then this is a very important thing to check.
Yep.
I was
that's one
trying to
thing-
be frivolous and make fun of you, but this is very serious.
No, it is very serious.
Now, what's this other thing right here? Do we have
This
to worry
is your
about this thing?
gas meter. This one you have to be more concerned about in the winter, okay? Because this is your vent from the
Okay.
gas meter, and you need to keep a finger's width, a hand's width underneath there, so that air can come up into the vent. Okay?
Gotcha.
So, and this tree, you don't want this tree getting underneath there and blocking your airflow.
Gotcha. Now, there's one more funny pipe that's just kind of sticking out there. I have no idea. What is that?
You got pipes down here. You've got probably a water heater pipe that needs fresh air. You've got a air conditioner or furnace that you need fresh air for. Your air exchanger needs fresh air. So all of these should be kept free of the trees. You're in good shape right now, Spot.
Oh, good. So I just got to make sure to keep the snow free from this area.
You are correct. Don't let it build up into the vents. It'll block the airflow.
Great. Now, could we go in the backyard? Because there's one more thing I got to ask you about.
Sure.
Let's do it. Okay, Jay, here's the final thing we need to check out. As you can see, I've got all of these trees in my backyard, so when they turn colors, they fall off, they'll be on the ground. You know how I'm going to get rid of them?
How are you going to get rid of them?
I'm going to throw gasoline and kerosene on them and light them up.
Spot.
Good idea?
No.
No, why?
With the leaves, you actually need to rake them up and put them in a recycling bin.
What's a recycling bin?
You need to have them hauled away. You cannot burn leaves. All that smoke is going to trail into your neighbor's home.
Oh my.
If you're not outside watching it, could start your lawn on fire.
Well, that would be very bad.
That would be bad.
See, I usually don't do the yard work. My mom does it. She's in charge of that. So I'm going to tell her that from now on, during the fall season, when we pick up leaves, no burning. We put them in the recycling container or some of those brown bags you get at some of the hardware stores around.
Yep, those brown bags work great. You can put the leaves in there and your garbage hauler can haul those away for you.
Oh, Jay, you know what? This is so great. Thank you so much for coming out and telling me how I can be prepared for the winter weather season, and now my house will be all prepared. So thank you so much.
All right, get to work.
Hey, well, before we go to work, do you want to come in and watch the soccer game with me?
All right, we'll go watch the soccer game.
It's the Birmingham Beagles against the Lancaster Legos, or the Lions. Anyway, let's go. Goal!
Thanks for joining us for another edition of LFD On Call. If you have questions, comments, an idea for the program, or would like to send a question in for Ask the Firefighter, please call 952-985-4700 or use the email address at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for joining us, and all fire units are clear.